So my name is Kelly Watson, and I am the managing partner of Orange Grove Consulting. It is a consultancy that does organizational behavior, learning and development, and we do some DEI work, some assessments and things like that. And I'm the head judge for today, and why don't we go start here?
My name is Ali Feruzzi. I work for an international project management engineering company. I'm a regular judge today. Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, I'm Richard Tang. I'm the assistant professor of marketing analytics here in IMU, so I'm a regular judge here today.
Hi everyone, I'm Jackie Long. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Student Engagement in our College of Business Administration, and I'm also a regular judge today.
All right, wonderful. So here's how this is going to work as part of this, in this part of the competition. Of course, you are taking on a fictional business identity, as are we. Please make sure everyone knows who you are and who we are before we begin. You'll have 25 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem and to recommend a solution that passes the muster on all three counts. During this time, you will not be interrupted. When you are finished, the judges will ask you questions for 10 to 15 minutes. During that Q&A, we're going to stay in character, and then after that, we will give you feedback on the presentations. All right, any questions? And please stay in the blue area so that you can be seen by the cameras that are recording this. All right, if you're ready, I will begin. Go ahead.
Hello, we are Waste Minimization Consulting, and today we're here to present to you a proposal on how you can reduce your food waste at your Whole Foods. So I'm Nora.
I'm Maria.
I'm Peyton.
I'm Daniel. I'm Micah.
So this is just a quick agenda of what we're going to go over today. We're going to introduce the topic, go over your current efforts as the Whole Foods Board, and then dive into our solution legalities, financials, and ethics, and then just conclude with our final thoughts. So to start off, food waste and sustainability are global issues that the food industry has been plagued with due to inefficiencies in the supply chain and just negligence on a company's behalf. So recently, Whole Foods has faced lots of criticism regarding its food waste management from customers, especially since customers want that accountability and transparency from companies such as Whole Foods that pride themselves on sourcing sustainably and being ethical. So 1/3 of all food that is produced is wasted, and that waste accounts for 6% of our greenhouse gases that are emitted. Okay, go back. So we live in a world where millions of people suffer from hunger and malnutrition and don't have access to or can't afford food, which is why this is a global ethical challenge that needs to be addressed, and it's companies like Whole Foods that have the responsibility to stand up and do something about it. And to that, we're proposing that you partner with Too Good To Go. So Too Good To Go is an app that connects its consumers with their local cafes, restaurants, bakeries, and grocery stores so they can buy their unsold food at the end of the day at a discounted price, thus reducing the food waste and ethically redistributing their unsold food. So this way, Whole Foods can, as I mentioned, ethically redistribute their unsold food at the end of the day instead of just throwing it away, and also by that addressing food waste concerns and hitting on SDG 12, which is responsible production and consumption. Too Good To Go as a company really prides themselves on doing all they can to advance the access of food, which aligns with Whole Foods' commitment to equality, community, and sustainability. This partnership would really enhance Whole Foods' reputation, as it would propel itself as a leader in the industry, as being a sustainable and ethical company that's doing all they can to positively impact their community.
Okay, now to get a little bit into the current efforts that you guys have in place, we really want to acknowledge and highlight the positive impact that you guys are having in terms of sustainability and ethics. So to remind you of some of the great efforts that you guys have in place right now, your donation partnerships with local charities and with food banks is amazing, as well as your collaboration with organizations like Imperfect Foods to reduce food waste. That's great. And in terms of what you're doing in your stores with sustainable packaging initiatives and also the composting programs that you guys have in place to divert organic food from ending in the landfills is all wonderful. So you guys are doing all of this, and you're probably wondering, well, Maria, we're already doing all of this. Why do we need to be doing more? The easy answer is we can always be doing more. But our answer to you is that we really truly believe that you guys have the potential to be the leader in sustainable and ethical business practices in the grocery industry. And that's all because there's still a huge problem, and that is, if you guys didn't know what the third biggest polluter in this world is, it's food waste. As Nora mentioned, 1/3 of food is wasted every year, and that means that we're wasting very valuable resources. And with our solution, we believe that we can better allocate these resources in a more efficient way. So our solution is a comprehensive food waste reduction strategy that focuses on a partnership with Too Good To Go, but we do have a 3-step solution that we do want to talk about. So the first step in this solution is prevention, and that's waste minimization at its source. And this is for you guys to do simple things like better inventory and making sure that you're not putting too many things on your shelves that don't need to be there. The second and most important step in our suggestion is a partnership with Too Good To Go, which I'll go into detail in this next slide. And lastly, it's education. We want to provide resources and guidance for your consumers and your employees to minimize their waste at home. And even though our main focus is on recovery, we wanted to create a well-rounded approach that you can implement to maximize the results. So now let's jump into the good stuff, the partnership with Too Good To Go and Whole Foods. As Nora mentioned, Too Good To Go is an app that was developed in 2016 to connect consumers with bakeries, restaurants, grocery stores, you name it, all to sell unsold food at the end of the day at a discounted price. Just to kind of walk you through how the app actually works if you were a consumer. As the consumer, you would download the app in the App Store, create an account, very easy, very user-friendly. From there, you'd select a radius of how far you're willing to drive to pick up your food. You'd browse the selection, choose a location that sounds appealing to you, and then you'd pay anywhere from $3 to $5 for a surprise bag and pick it up at the designated time window. When doing the primary research for this proposition, we decided what better way to figure out if this was something we were really behind than to try out the app ourselves. And the first time that we tried the app, we decided to buy a $5 surprise bag from a donut shop nearby. And it's safe to say that it's some of the best donuts that we've tried in LA. We walked into the donut shop, showed them our app, they had the surprise bag ready to go for us, and we were in and out of there within 30 seconds. It was very user-friendly, an awesome experience, and because of that, we've been using the app ever since. And I think it's also because of that, it's very easy for us to stand here and be so passionate and enthusiastic about this proposition because it's something that we really want to see through and that we really stand behind. So now you're probably wondering, what does this partnership between us really look like? What does Whole Foods surprise bags actually have in place? And you guys are at an advantage where you guys have a wide variety of food in your stores. So even though your surprise bags would vary day to day depending on what's left over at the end of the day, you guys can have anything ranging from your produce section, your bakery, your deli, your hot bar, the sandwich and the pizza shop, really anything and everything you can put into that bag. And we've seen extreme success with a similar surprise bag with Italy, the grocer and restaurant chain as well. They also have things from their bakery, their deli, their prepared food sections, really anything and everything in their bags, and they're one of Too Good To Go's most successful partners and most sought after surprise bags on the app. So not only is this partnership great for us, but it's also great for consumers, not just financially, but in terms of health as well. I know that if I had the option to buy a $5 surprise bag from Whole Foods with nutritious, healthy ingredients, or drive that same distance to a McDonald's and buy a quarter pounder, I'd much rather invest my money in a $5 surprise bag from Whole Foods. Not only that, but right now you guys have the reputation of being one of the most expensive grocers in the country. By doing this partnership with Too Good To Go, you're giving the opportunity for people who may have always wanted to try your products and your food, but didn't have the financial means to do so. So really, you're building your reputation and making your food accessible to the entire community. So it's good for the consumers, it's good for the community, and it's good for you also because this is food that you would be throwing out at the end of the day, when now you can make a profit out of it still. But that's enough from me. Let's hear more logistics from Peyton.
So from a legal standpoint, there's really a few key aspects in which this really benefits Whole Foods, and I'm going to name 3 of them. So first of all, there's no current federal, state, or local legal restrictions that would restrict Whole Foods or any other restaurant or grocery chain in distributing close to expiration or surplus food that otherwise be wasted through an app. This includes the app Too Good To Go on the marketplace. Additionally, there is federal protection through the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Act, as well as the Food and Nation Improvement Act, which is just builds off of the Bill Emerson Act. And these 2 acts provide civil and criminal federal liability protection for Whole Foods if they were to engage in this partnership with Too Good To Go, as long as Whole Foods distributes apparently wholesome food at a Good Samaritan reduced price, alluring back to that Bill Emerson Act, and then donates in good faith. So this would allow Whole Foods this legal liability protection, as well as allow them to distribute a wider variety of food than they might otherwise, and further navigate health and safety challenges. Finally, this is really a plug-and-play licensing partnership that I'll get into further when it comes to Whole Foods partnering with Too Good To Go. And furthermore, Too Good To Go is a certified B Corporation, meaning that they're basically exceeding and going above and beyond the greatest legal challenges when it comes to ethics and sustainability, and this really helps Whole Foods' reputation. So when it comes to navigating the current legal landscape, these are things that Whole Foods is already doing that I just want to touch on. So complying with the FDA food code to ensure safe handling and distribution, and this would touch into a partnership with Too Good To Go in distributing these surprise bags, navigating varying food waste legislation across a mix of 14 states and cities. The most stringent two, which are California's own SB 1383, which calls for all businesses that deal with food, including Whole Foods in the state of California, to save at least 20% of food that would otherwise be wasted by 2025, as well as Austin, Texas, which is the home of Whole Foods. They have a universal recycling ordinance that calls for it's a similar act to SB 1383 in the sense that a similar percentage of all food must be composted, must be recycled, must be put back into the ecosystem in some form or another. So Whole Foods can just continue to collaborate with legal experts to ensure compliance and look out on the horizon for future legal considerations that might come into play. So looking at the Too Good To Go partnership specifically from a legal standpoint, so this would go a formal licensing partnership between Whole Foods and Too Good To Go, in which Whole Foods would act as a store on Too Good To Go's marketplace within their app. This licensing agreement would really go right into what they already have in terms that there's 4 key aspects: the ability for Whole Foods to distribute surprise food bags at a Good Samaritan reduced price, going back to the idea of that reduced price and complying with the federal legislation, the responsibilities of each party regarding food safety and handling, going back to the FDA food code, a legal settlement to determine the splits from these surprise bag revenues, and because Whole Foods is such a large company with the backing from Amazon, they can really take advantage of this from a litigation standpoint and really leverage for a larger amount of those splits than many of the other current grocery stores and restaurants that partner with Too Good To Go. And then finally, a resolution process for arising disputes between Whole Foods and Too Good To Go. And don't just take my word for it. This is directly from the Too Good To Go website. They have this licensing agreement template already in place for the public to view. And so these are just some of the aspects from this, including the idea of having these surprise bags that would be sold at a discounted price that would allow for more people to access food at Whole Foods. The idea of having a legal settlement for licensed stores that will be handled by Too Good To Go and Whole Foods' legal teams. The agreement becoming valid from a signature date, and Whole Foods would have 90 days to basically terminate this partnership, how it was originally written, which provides them an extra level of flexibility. And then furthermore, with the flexibility, Whole Foods can terminate any of their stores, their placement on the Too Good To Go marketplace app. So if they feel that there's a situation where it's just not working out for them for one store, they're seeing Pacific markets might be doing better than others, and they don't want to take the full risk of the full partnership, they can take that store off of the marketplace.
All right, so next up, I'm going to take the baton, Peyton, over here, and talk about the financials of Whole Foods and this partnership overall. So I'm going to start with the financial backstory of your guys' company, Whole Foods. So in years prior, Whole Foods wasn't doing so hot. They were losing profit quarter over quarter, and they were kind of trying to figure out how to recover from that. So in 2016, they tried changing from CEOs from a co-CEO system to a single CEO with John Mackey. He was one of the co-CEOs, and he tried his best to make some success, but just wasn't really working out. So because of that, in 2017, Amazon bought the company for $13.7 billion in hopes to turn it around based on their e-commerce side. So because of that purchase, Whole Foods went from a public company to a now private company, with their last public filing being their 10K from the 2016 to 2017 year. So what happened to Whole Foods after being bought by Amazon? There's a lot of bullet points here, but I'm going to go into the ones that are beneficial to our point of being with the partnership with Too Good To Go. So first up, if I may go in front of you, Micah, we got, they added 3,000 local brands, which is a 30% increase in size. So that just means more ingredients, products, stuff like that they can use in said goodie bags. They also moved to Austin, where they have the new laws and codes. Going down a little bit more, they refreshed their own private brand, 365, the Whole Foods brand. And they added almost 300 new products, which, again, can be used in the Too Good To Go goodie bags. And with these new products, people can say, oh, I like this when I'm usually buying it. It's on sale in this goodie bag. I want to get that bag today. And then next up, I'm going to go into the online orders. They tripled their online orders in 2020. So that's beneficial for our partnership because it's an online business. So that means there'll be a lot more orders coming in. And then finally from this slide, I'm going to go over here on the overall impact. Whole Foods owns 1% of the grocery market. So they have a pretty big stake, and their name means a lot. So if they partner with Too Good To Go, a lot can be done because of that. So now I'm going to talk about the financial reasons why we should focus on food waste. Food waste in general, when it comes to expired or unsold products, they're just going to go to waste. That means no revenue, no profit or anything for the companies themselves. So what do you do in that situation? You partner with Too Good To Go to at least make some profit. Even if it's at a discount, it's something. And because of that, there will be less space on the shelves being taken up by expired products or unused products, which means new products can come in to take their place and hopefully be sold at a profit or eventually at a discounted price, again with Too Good To Go in our bags. And it is not only beneficial for your guys' company, Whole Foods, and Amazon itself, but it's also beneficial for companies like Too Good To Go or other food waste management companies because it gives them a boost in revenue and publicity by working with such a huge company. So finally, I'm going to talk about the financial success of the food waste industry. So Whole Foods is not the only company that found success due to this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Too Good To Go. So as we mentioned earlier about their founding and stuff, they had an IPO of $31.1 million in crowdfunding, which was led by a $15.4 million funding by an investment firm called IBESCC. Overall, they've served over 50 million meals in 15 different countries. They have working with 65,000 businesses and have over 30 million users. So this year, they had a revenue of 102 million euros. And in August 2023, Too Good To Go had 1.6 million monthly active users in just that month alone in the US for iOS and Android combined, which is up almost 60% from the same time last year. A little demographic about that, 75% of Too Good To Go users are under the age of 34, with the biggest demographic being 25 to 34 year old millennial women on the West Coast. So that demographic, they want high quality ingredients, they have the income to dispose on it, and they just overall want the best for themselves and their products.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about some of the ethics of our solution. This is really an ethical way to go about this because it alleviates one of the main issues that a lot of companies in the food industry have to face, which is that a lot of the food goes to waste at the end of the day, right? I think we mentioned a third of the food ends up being wasted. And by partnering with Too Good To Go, not only would it align with Whole Foods' stated values and mission, it would help alleviate some of this food insecurity and make Whole Foods more accessible to more people who might not be able to spend $50, $70 on groceries, but can definitely obtain, a $5, $10 goodie bag for the same amount of food. And as said, this really would go along with the Whole Foods values of nourishing people and the planet while delivering high quality products to its customers, and this will only allow it to serve more customers and more people while providing those good Samaritan prices. And because of this high quality that Whole Foods does, this is obviously given it that reputation we talked about before. And the reason why we think that this partnership would be so good is because, as we've mentioned, Whole Foods kind of has got into some hot water regarding its food waste. There was actually a video that kind of went viral where someone was dumpster diving at a Whole Foods and looking at all this food, and they were trying to get this healthy food, because they're like, well, it's just wasted, it's still edible. But if it's handled properly, rather than just being in a dumpster, that mitigates the risk for someone who might want this high quality food that's just being wasted. And this obviously supports the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Specifically, this could go along with the Goal 12 of sustainable production and commerce. So that way it's, oh, sorry. Can you,
Yep.
yeah. So this is an environmental issue as well. So our solution would be tackling both the environmental and also helping people gain this nourishing food. And we know that we've talked about prevention and education steps, and while preventing food waste from being created by optimizing the supply chain and all these things is really important, we also know that you can't really reduce food waste to zero, especially in a business model like Whole Foods that has things like the hot bar and the bakery. That's why we're the waste minimization team. We want to be able to reduce it in all forms, especially through this recovery step with Too Good To Go. And this also really kind of protects stakeholders by inspiring other companies as well to maybe partner with Too Good To Go, especially because Whole Foods is such a big company, especially being owned by a company like Amazon. This could really highlight the kind of aspect of being at the forefront of the industry in ethics and sustainability. The education step is also really important, just being able to educate the consumers and the staff, even for example, educating the staff on what can be given to the Too Good To Go partnerships, can educate themselves in their own personal lives as well as what food is still edible versus should be thrown away. And while initiatives already are in place for Whole Foods, we kind of have to ask, what would be the best outcome to respect the rights of all stakeholders, and how can we handle this with the most care? So we understand that your guys' compost initiative and the food banks are great. We shouldn't say you discontinue that, but rather than using food to create compost, wouldn't it be better to nourish people and give people access to Whole Foods, as well as with food banks? There's only certain items you can donate. For example, like the whole hot bar, they don't take prepared food at food banks. That's something that Too Good To Go can offer, and also allow people to have kind of a normalized and destigmatized experience using Too Good To Go. So ultimately, this would kind of be the best solution to address all these problems and kind of really affect the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit by being profitable for Whole Foods while also helping people and the planet, and and be able to really just help everyone while also promoting Whole Foods brand image. And this is a perspective marketing material, just promoting and kind of normalizing using Too Good To Go and representing it in a positive light that will promote Whole Foods and Too Good To Go at the same time.
So just to wrap everything up, we really believe this partnership would be really beneficial for your company, Whole Foods, because not only is it financially feasible, but it's in line with all FDA codes and ultimately helps fight against food justice. So this partnership would also really help establish Whole Foods as a role model for social responsibility, as it would show other companies that sustainability and profitability aren't mutually exclusive and that they can go hand in hand. And we're really excited for this opportunity for your company, Whole Foods, and we really hope you take advantage of it because it really is too good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so let me just start the timer. I'm going to kick off the Q&A with, so I appreciate your saying that that not all of the food that we're dealing with today, that our current solution is not taking into account all of the food. But I want to make sure I understand what part of the problem is not being met today, because I'm really concerned about the ethics of taking away from our existing donations, because that could have an impact on the food banks. So can you be specific, because you kind of talked about products that could go in, like the 365, but those are packaged products that probably could be donated to the food bank. So can you quantify for me, like how much of our food is going to waste that could be recaptured with this solution? And can you assure me that that's not taking out of the mouths of somebody in the food bank?
Yeah, so currently right now the efforts that you guys have in place, like the ones with the food banks and the collaboration with Imperfect Foods, the Imperfect Food ones is specifically to deal with foods that were damaged and they're being donated. So that would still be the case. We wouldn't want to put damaged foods into the surprise bags either, because maybe people won't want to get those. Imperfect Foods, it's its own solution. And then in terms of the food banks, we are giving the packaged foods that have a longer timeline, but really our surprise bags, they focus more on the on the foods that I mentioned, from produce, from the deli, the bakery, the hot bar, and the sandwich and pizza shop, just because these are things, Whole Foods prides itself on being healthy and fresh and cooking new foods every day. So they scrap all of these things at the end of the day. They don't donate them to anyone every single day. So you're right, those products that are prepackaged usually do go to food banks, and that our goal is not to strip away food from there. Our focus is on the foods that are just being thrown away.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I appreciate that you quantified that then in terms of what's being thrown away. So then my next question is about cost, because this is not cost-free, right? Like somebody's got to, this is a process that doesn't exist today. Someone's got to put this food into containers, which have a cost, and put them into bags, which have a cost, and assemble it all and have it ready for the pickup and manage, an app is spitting out some kind of an order. Like I'm envisioning a lot of work and a lot of process that's outside of how we do business today. So can you quantify that for me?
Quantify. I know each bag is ranging from what we said, $3 to $5 to $10 a piece. So for us to give you guys the products, it would definitely be cheaper than that, because just putting all the products that would have gone to waste together, so it's not that expensive on a bag by bag basis to get the products together. That would have already just went away because they're all already in circulation. That makes sense.
Right, so people are paying for the bags is your point.
Yeah.
So as long as it costs me less to put together the bag than what we're able to get.
Yeah, exactly.
But presumably you all take a fee too, right?
Yes, to answer your question, because I've used the app a couple of times, one of these times when doing the research, I went to Coffee Bean and I asked the person who gave me my order, like, hey, how does this partnership work? Is it practical for you guys? Like, or is it like, oh, another Too Good to Go order? Like, let me deal with this, whatever. And she was like, no, it's really easy, and it's really beneficial because us as employees, when we have to throw out the things at the end of the day, it's disappointing. And I was like, what about the cost, whatever? And she told me that Too Good To Go provides you with it. We could provide more specifics on how much you are paying financially Too Good To Go, but they provide you with the boxes, with the bags ready to go. I'm sure it is a fixed cost, but the point of it shouldn't be anything that should be financially inconvenient for you, because like we said, they're a B Corp, they're trying their best to be sustainable and ethical in all their practices. So we could look more into that to answer your question.
That's a great answer. So you're saying I don't have any cost of packaging. You are giving me all the packaging.
Yeah.
Ah, fascinating. Okay, all right. So it's really just my people having to put it together and
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there's a fee ostensibly to Too Good To Go. I don't think they're,
And the fee.
it's not the Red Cross, yeah.
Right, exactly. All right. Well, why don't you go next then?
Thank you. Really appreciate you guys bringing this solution to our attention. There's some questions on the legal dynamic that you touched on a little bit. So we have different laws in different states, and obviously Whole Foods are all over the place, from West Coast, East Coast, up and down.
Sure.
Now, I know we have some protections at the federal level, but are there any states where you think this type of solution would be problematic legally?
From a legal standpoint, I really don't believe so. In the sense that there aren't any, as kind of alluded to earlier, there isn't anything that's restricting Whole Foods from doing this, and there could be, the only thing I can see happening is some sort of political backlash that could come out of this. A state that has a voting demographic that is against, going to these kinds of extremes from an environmental and ethical standpoint and sustainable standpoint. But when it comes strictly to laws, from what I've found, there's nothing that would restrict Whole Foods from doing this on any level, in any municipality, in any state, in any federal government. And additionally, kind of on the flip side of that, Too Good To Go currently operates in about 15 countries. Whole Foods operates in the US, Canada, and the United Kingdom, and Too Good To Go operates in each of those 3 countries, meaning that Whole Foods could scale this. And from what I looked at from the regulations of these different countries, this is something that could be legally viable for them. There's nothing, if anything, these countries at large are actually more open to the idea of sustainable packaging and this initiative between Whole Foods and Too Good To Go.
So the 30 million user account you had, that's for Too Good To Go globally. That's their
Globally,
footprint
yeah.
everywhere.
Yes.
So that puts the 1.6 million user number a little bit more into
In perspective, yeah.
perspective, because I was wondering how do they have 30 million, only 1.6 million users? If that awesome, you think everybody would be on this all the time.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any visibility for the businesses that have participated? Is there any cannibalization of regular
Right.
clients where they just say, well, geez, let me just wait to the end of the day and just let them throw it out, and I'll get the magic box from A, B, or C company.
Well, there's a limited amount.
Yeah,
at the
there's a
end of the day.
limited amount of surprise bags. It's not like anyone can come in and buy the $5 surprise bag, because that would be affecting your business at the end of the day. The point is to have a limited amount. I think one of the companies that I reached out to said that they had 10 a day, which is still or not 10 a day. Sorry. Oh, I don't remember the exact amount, but still, it's a limited amount that you have in place so that you can still help the community have this partnership going on, but it's not taking away from your business, because you don't want people to take advantage and be like, oh, if I can just get the goodie bag. But yeah, and it won't affect your regular users, because if you are a mom grocery shopping for your kids and you need carrots, celery, and the hot bar soup and whatever, you wouldn't want to get the surprise bag, because you don't know what's going to be in there, and you still need to do your day-to-day grocery shopping.
Basics, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I
So
don't do for.
to follow up with your line of thinking, so if there's a limited number of these things a day, for the reasons that you stipulated, how limited do you think it should be for us? Because if we're only doing 10 of these a day, and we have all of our Whole Food stores are 20, 30, 40,000 square feet, then how much of an impact do we really make if a Whole Food store does 10 of these bags a day?
I think the person that I asked it was 10. It was this local little coffee shop that I did it with in LA, so they don't have
It's on a set number.
Yeah, they don't have the amount of food to be doing more than 10 a day. Like, that's their maximum. If not, they would probably be at a loss if they started selling more than 10 a day. But Whole Foods, I mean, it depends. You guys have that insider information of how much food you're actually throwing away, but it would all depend on how many you think is appropriate to be selling.
And furthermore, Too Good To Go is very flexible. From what I've just looked at of some of the legal frameworks of how they operate with their partners, they are very flexible on kind of what each partner is willing to deal with. And because Whole Foods, such a large company, has such a large backing, they can really scale this to the degree that they really want to.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I also have a follow-up question. That first of all, thank you so much for providing that solution, very well elaborated. My question is that since we are Amazon, we are a big company, right? So in this case, I understand that Too Good To Go is a pioneer in this practice. But my question is still that why don't we do it ourselves? We can just add a function in our Amazon app. Like, we have some surprising bag available, and every day after 6 p.m. in your local nearby neighborhood Whole Foods store. So why I gonna go with To Go and To Go, right? So in this case, To Go and To Go maybe have 1.6 million like expected users, but Amazon apps we have like way more than that amount. So why we go with To Go and To Go? And also besides, I personally use that app. I think it's mostly for small local cafe and bakery store. And do you have any other clients on To Go and To Go that is like relatively in our size, may not be exactly our size, but magnitudely like similar to us, like big store using your service?
Yes, Too Good To Go has partnerships with other grocery stores. In California, I know it's not with Aldi, but in other states in the U.S., it's with Aldi and with other grocers. Also here in LA and in other of the big cities that have Eataly, which is also a similar grocer-type restaurant situation, they also have partnerships. And the reason why you wouldn't want to do your own Too Good To Go in Whole Foods is because that's allocating a whole team, a whole thing. You have to create this whole system to do what we very easily just come in, do. It's a little bit of legalities and paperwork and whatever, but at the end of the day, it's up to you. If you really are willing to spend that much money and resources into making your own, then we're all for it. But we're really here as a corporation trying to help everyone and just create these partnerships in a good way that's great for the economy.
Gotcha.
So kind of along the same lines, I know that you mentioned that in some other states they have partnerships with Eataly or even Aldi. You know, at Aldi, obviously, it's mostly going to be packaged products. They don't really have a hot food bar at Aldi. Eataly, they do have hot food bars, but it's not self-serve. So from a legal perspective, are you running into any situations where at Whole Foods, a lot of times the customers are handling the food throughout the day, and at the end of the day, you're now trying to package these foods for folks to purchase? What's there to say that someone, I don't know, like could have tampered food, or like are there any like legality concerns on our end that someone's gonna get a food package and there's like a stray hair or something where the workers themselves aren't trained to be providing this food on like during their regular hours per se?
And this is something where the federal government offers that liability protection, and in the case of an extreme scenario, something might arise. But when you look at it from just a day-to-day situation, there aren't going to necessarily be any concerns in the sense that we can have Whole Foods employees very briefly do a quick inventory observation of what these hot bars look like, what these delis look like, and kind of see what can we legitimately get rid of. At the end of the day, it's viable for the consumer and safe on their end. So I really believe that, with the proper education, with the proper training, this is something that Whole Foods can try to minimize their risk as much as possible down to, the very, very small percentages that might exist.
And then in addition to that, as we talked about with Whole Foods, it's a really broad scope of what they offer. They have everything from salad bars to Mexican to soups to sushi, etc. How are you going to market this to a to a demographic when they're looking on the app? If I'm looking for a surprise bag at Whole Foods, I really could get something I want if I'm really fortunate, but I'm also taking a risk that I'm going to get something that's completely opposite from what I want versus, I think the donut shop was offered earlier. I know when I'm going to go to a donut shop, I'm going to get donuts, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're obviously inventory. Even at Eataly, like when I go to Eataly, I know generally they have a pretty niche, right, marketplace, and so I generally know what I'm going to come up against when I get it, so I might be more open to it. Someone going to Whole Foods, if, you could be getting soup, you can be getting salad, you could be getting vegetables, you can be getting meat. Yeah. How are you going to address that with the consumers to get them to want to use Whole Foods platform on this?
Well, I would say this partnership wouldn't be for the people that just want something specific from a store. It's from those people, it goes back to the ethical point, that need the food and can't afford it and are using an app like this to get some food, any food that they would just be happy with that they need. So, yeah.
And I think I've watched some reviews of people getting Too Good To Go, the surprise bags filled with a lot of things, and then there might be one or two things that they threw out, but our goal is to minimize food waste. Like we said, it's not to reduce it completely, because to be realistic, that can't happen. So I think if maybe one or two things are tossed or they don't want them, that's fine, but at the end of the day, the users of Too Good To Go are willing to take on that risk. They like the surprise bags, and at the end of the day, I think that they still enjoy, even if there might be one or two items.
Last question, tying back to your target demographic, right? When you're talking about the folks who are using the app or folks who may be like food insecure and things like that, have there been any research done around like how many people even have access to like apps or being able to put a credit card in to be able to purchase these items, right? Versus like cash or other more like disposable ways that you can make this like transaction happen.
One thing I will say from my experience, I was lucky enough to work in a homeless initiative in the past, and from what I experienced, one of the things that is a kind of key access that the vast majority of the population has, one form or another, is a smartphone, is access to the internet. From what I had deducted, we saw that 98% I should say, of people within the city of Austin have access to this thing. So this is something that is widespread, and we don't really see as being some sort of great barrier for the greater population at large.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, great job. Yeah. Now relax, we're going to give you feedback. All right. Let me stop the timer so it doesn't interrupt us. Great. Okay, so first of all, great clear intro. I love it when someone presents and tells me exactly what I'm about to hear. Otherwise, I spend the first 10 minutes trying to figure out what are we talking about. So that was really, really great. Great presentation overall. You obviously know your material. So you don't need your cue cards, and I know it makes you feel more comfortable, but it disrupts your connection to the audience. So just listen, you got this, you really do. And you weren't trying to read a script or whatever. It's like, and I loved that you didn't stand and look at the screen either. So great job. I feel like back to the sort of balancing the whole ethics thing. I think it's really important, especially in an ethics presentation, that you show us how this is it sounds really great, like, yeah, this is super ethical because we're taking this food and we're getting it to people who need the food. But I do think that it's the bigger chain that we'd have to think about. So balancing, are we taking this away from our regular donations? And then a thing you said at the very end that hadn't even occurred to me until you said it, is what happens if people take this and then they throw it out and now it's in the landfill, where at least Whole Foods was going to put it into some kind of compost, And so I know it's probably small, but is it small is the question, or are people taking it, they're eating one small piece of this and then the rest of it is disposed of in a really not great way. So I think that because it's an ethics presentation, you just got to make sure you cover all of the angles here that are ethical, because yeah, and then I think the question was asked a number of times, and you keep going back on the legal piece to the Good Samaritan laws and everything else, but I'm envisioning, a Salmonella problem, you know, it's day old food or whatever, and let's hope that Whole Foods really does throw it away at the end of the day, but I'm highly skeptical of that in and of itself. So what happens if somebody gets it and they get sick, and are they really protected? I know it says Good Samaritan, but at the end of the day, Whole Foods has a deep pocket, and so people are going to sue. People are going to come after Whole Foods if they get food that's marginal. I mean, I don't know that the Good Samaritan law is going to protect them if there's something inherently wrong. So that's just something I would think about. Again, if they've only ever dealt with grocery or packages and stuff like that, then they may not have sort of entered this kind of water, which, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they figured this out, but that was my concern. Anyhow.
Really nicely done, guys. Really good topic. The whole sustainability aspect seems to be a thread that I find in the presentations today. It's really nice to see the next generation of leaders trying to think of inventive ways to solve the problems coming up. I am curious, though, since you've used the app yourselves, do you put in like food allergies so you don't get stuff that might kill you?
Maybe I didn't look at that part in the beginning. I'm sure there is, but since I don't have allergies, I usually, anytime it's allergies, I don't even think about it once it's no. But I want to assume that yes, that there is.
And to follow up with the point that she made, since it's like a mystery bag, again with a donut shop, odds are you're getting a donut. Okay, maybe a crawler or some coffee.
Yeah.
You know kind of the genre that you're in, but with larger stores, it's a grab bag. It is what it is. It would be interesting to know what percentage of people get it, like, versus, well, it's $5. Didn't. I don't like this, I'm not into it. So I think, again, on the surface, really good concept overall, but as with most things in life, the details underneath oftentimes end up being where we kind of get caught. So figuring out a way that this concept would be even better, I think would be really interesting. Just as a general comment to you guys, since you obviously have an interest in this, you picked the topic for a reason. Your presentation overall was really well done. I think you guys worked together, so I don't know how much time you spent synergizing, but you worked pretty well as a group. And the final point I will say is the legal aspects of things are super, super important. So whenever you do anything, dig deep in that area. Most of my job, even though I'm in charge of finance for the company, my risk mitigation is always legal. Like morning, noon, and night. Legal. Where are we going to get broadside from? And you know what they say, no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
So while you're trying to do righteous things, I say this, I'll tell you a brief 30-second story. I worked at In-N-Out right before I started my college days, right out of high school. And I worked till 1:30 in the morning, drive to school. I was like, this is a terrible job. Another good reason why I should get an education. And I watched them throw out literally a bucket of food end of the night. All the hamburgers were wrong. I don't want tomatoes. Oh, it's supposed to be this. And we'd see back then, there was no protection, literally a bucket of food every night being thrown out. I'm like, geez, what a waste. And we kept asking, and then everyone in upper management was like, no, it's way better to throw this out than to get popped with a lawsuit in California. We want off the hook. So not saying they haven't passed laws, I'm sure the protections have gotten better, but in anything that you do, really dig deep and dirty into the legal aspect of stuff, because for most business owners, that's a number one concern. We're always fearful of that part of things, way more than the money part. Worst comes worst, we break even on the money, not make a dime, and we get a little bit of positive press. The downside is to not lose like 13 cents, now I'm out $7.44 because I have some massive lawsuit, and I know everybody jumps on a bandwagon when it's a deep pocket. But overall, really nicely done. Really proud of you guys.
Thank you. Great.
Tiffany, actually, do you want to have some insights first? Because I have some other comments about the presentation.
Of course. So similar to what everyone said, great presentation. Clearly you all practiced together. The transitions were really smooth. Everyone spoke very clearly. Even if you did kind of like stumble, you guys caught up really quickly. So, I mean, just amazing job on like the presentation part from my end. I think the proposition that Professor Tang brought up regarding like what is keeping Amazon, and I understand there's a lot of like additional costs, but what is keeping Amazon from just taking this business model and applying it directly to them or any business, right? Being like, I can just discount my food, like Tokyo Central just discounts their food after 7 p.m., right? And yes, you do get those folks who might wait until that time to purchase it, but they can get rid of most of their food and still probably make much more profit because they're keeping all the profits and not splitting it with a third party. So just keeping in mind, I think what everyone has said is like, you know, when we want to scale up, like it sounds like this company has done really well with smaller, more niche restaurants and businesses, which would make sense if, again, you're going to a coffee store, you're going to a restaurant, right? You generally know, like, there's a limited scope of, like, what you're probably going to get in your surprise bag. But then when you scale up to something as diverse as Whole Foods, you just want to make sure that the app is also ready to support, like, food allergies, like, types of food. Do you want hot food, cold food? Do you want salad, raw, you know, what have you? And then also to consider, obviously, the legal ramifications that we brought up before. Yeah. Great job, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so again, very good presentation and a very well solution. Actually, in terms of the solution itself, I will encourage you to think more about what's the core part of your solution, which is it's about surprising back, which is just a way of promoting a huge discount promotion, right? Or your solution is to go and go, right? So in this way, you can offer surprising back in store, and you can actually have the consumers just randomly stop by that Whole Foods store and pick up that surprising bag. And to go is just another channel, online channel, and then you have offline channel. So in this case, it's more comprehensive solution. Actually, I'm gonna make some comments about the slides design itself. I have a reputation that I'm really, really picky on slides design. So would you please actually go to the first page?
The title page?
Yeah, the first introduction page. So first of all, some of the page you have like introduction page, the third one, I think. Yeah. So some of the page you have too many words. So you guys need a very good presentation. Actually, most of the information we get from is from your presentation, our presentation. So you can safely reduce some words on the slides, because I believe not many audience gonna read it. And if there are too many words, they are too crowded, it's just distracting. Okay. Another way that I think the introduction part is very important. I think you have two keywords you need to emphasize. First of all, 1/3 of the food in the world is wasted. So this is a critical issue. But you guys make a very good presentation on this information, but it's not reflected on your slides. So my suggestion is that you can just create a page, like just 33%, and highlight it, make it in red, a big word, and then some wasted food in the picture. So therefore you establish the concept, this is a critical issue. Okay, so you can add some visualization, more interactive. So number one, this is a critical issue. Step two, you have to build the relevancy to Whole Foods. Therefore, you have to talk about something about Whole Foods. Why Whole Foods is specifically critical in solving this issue or the target of this issue. Number one, Whole Foods is a leading grocery chain. Number one reason. Number two, they have the slogan. I think you speak it very well. Cook fresh food every day, right? Since you are in that, a lot of those your offerings is perishable. That's why you are more critical to vulnerable to this critical issue. So build relevance. So critical issue, and Whole Foods is specifically relevant to this issue. And again, you don't have to have a lot of words to, you can say it, but in the slides itself, a few pictures and a few highlighted words, that works way better than now a lot of words in those kind of slides. And also, I think you can also mention that why Whole Foods is specifically relevant to this issue is that talking about their target customers. So if I were like Whole Foods executive, I always think about my target audience, right? My target consumers. They are relatively wealthy, right? Well educated, and very environmental concern. Therefore, you think that you do this not just to make like a few more pennies from the wasted food, but also create the image, a positive image in the mindset of your target consumers. Therefore, you can mention those in the second part. One, Whole Foods, why is it specifically relevant to this issue? Number one, you are the leading players in the world. Number two, your offering, your slogan, your value proposition is fresh. Number three, your target audience. So from critical issue, Whole Foods is relevant. And then you transfer to the third part. So your current solution, you mentioned it very well. And also in the later part, you said, why still you need to go? Because the food bank does not accept processed food. I think you should mention that part early. Therefore, establish the reason why to go need to come to play. So I think this is restructure this front part. I'm sorry, I might talk too much. But another thing is that if you go to next page, so see those bullet points in the second one, the second level, they are not in parallel. Yeah, the indent is not unified. Enhance the Whole Foods reputation, should move it a little bit. So actually, I'm gonna be very, very picky. So you have to unify every single things like that. In the future page talking about the legal, you guys did not use bullet point as a circle, you use 1, 2, 3. So unify that. If you use 1, 2, 3, you use 1, 2, 3 all the way. Another page is like when you talk about the financial success of the company, to go, you talk about the investment company called IBES. The B should be capitalized. I believe the company name should be capitalized. So in this case, if your future presentation target audience like me, I'm gonna be very picky. So it's better always unify all kinds of formats, the color, the font, when you're gonna bold some words. So, but in overall, I think you have very, very good content and educated me a lot about this context, and your solution is good.
Thank you very much.
All right, great. Well,
Well
thank you
done,
very
guys.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.